Hey everyone, it's Scorpius. Welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over one of the most asked for videos from you guys these couple of days. The Gemling Legionnaire Attribute Stacking build for the endgame. If you guys are still leveling up your Gemling as an attribute stacker, then you can check out this video for the leveling guide. But if you've done all that and you're ready to move on to the endgame, then this video is going to dive deeper into everything that you need to know. Bear in mind though, a quick disclaimer is that this build is pretty expensive. It could go as low as 10 divine all the way to 3, 4, 500 divine. Depending on what your budget is going to define how well this build performs, but bear in mind that the biggest weakness of this build is it's defensive. So you need resistance as much as you can, and that's where you're going to start struggling with the currency. Just a fair warning that I currently invested around 30 to 35 divine, and I still find some issues that I have here and there with defensives. However, on the contrary and the good side of things, I can guarantee that this build works with just 10 divine. However, don't expect to one-shot the pinnacle bosses or do like crazy juiced up maps with ease. You're gonna need to pay attention a little bit more and just utilize your whole kit. But with 10 divine, you can easily do high-end content. Anything above that is going to progress you even further and make this build even stronger. Okay, so getting deeper into the good stuff so you can understand how you can build this to achieve results of what you just saw. But to start things off, we've got obviously the weapon, Pillar of the Caged God, which is what makes everything possible. It can be as cheap as 10 Exalted Orb. It can go all the way to like 2 divine, depending on what you're looking for. I'm just having like a base 2 to 10 kind of Pillar of the Caged God here, and it works perfectly fine. For the runes, I added Soul Core of Quipo, which gives you 5% increased attack speed. You want to have 2 of those, and it's good to go. Next up, we've got the helmet, which is Black Sun Crest. It's a very good helmet, and once again, the stats that you see here are the stats that I managed to pick up with whatever budget that I had in the time, but the higher the stats that you find, the more expensive it could be. Once again, it can range from like a couple of exalted, like 5, 6 exalted, all the way to at least 1 divine if you want to have all of these stats maxed. Next, we have the chest piece, the body armor, Warrior Invictus Grand Regalia. This is the best in slot that you can find, and once again, it varies. As we can see here, I just got into the training site just so I can show you what it looks like. As you see, there's like 1 exalted orb, but I doubt these guys are gonna reply. These are just price fixers. If you go all the way down, you're gonna see like 20 to 30 exalted orb, but we don't want the base one. We want very different attributes. As you can see, there's 2 modifiers here, and the ones that we care about are very specific. If you type in per socketed, then you're gonna get all of the options. The 2 that we're looking for, elemental resistances per socketed rune and attributes. So these 2 are obviously the best ones and the more expensive ones. The reason why we want this is because this chest piece is insanely good at giving you more attributes and more elemental resistances. Remember, defense is not the best thing in this build, so you definitely want the elemental resistances one. And moving on from the chest, another mandatory piece is obviously the Hand of Wisdom. It's an insanely good piece. As you can see, it gives you 3% attack speed per 25 dexterity, which is something that we have a lot. And then it adds lightning damage to attacks per 10 intelligence, which is also something that we have a lot. The price varies here as well. As you guys can see, the cheapest one is a 1 divine. You cannot get it for less than that, and to be completely honest, I don't think you will ever be able to get it for 1 divine. These are just, once again, price fixers, and they will never ever answer to your message. It's usually more than 2 divine. 2 to 3 divine is the base that you can get. My DPS on Tempest Flurry is a 200k outside of combat. If I take off the gloves, we are down to 39,000. This piece literally gives me 160,000 DPS. So yeah, pretty mandatory. Next, we've got another big item, which is the Ingenuity Utility Belt, which once again costs a couple of divine. And what it does is we don't care about the first line, the 20% flask recovery. We only care about the 60% increase bonuses gained from equipped rings. So imagine you get 2 badass rings, and then you slap this belt and you get extra 60% bonus of whatever stats your ring has. So if we go over and we click here and we see the highest one, which is 98, it's insane. It costs mirrors or 100 or 1,750 divine. This is crazy, forget about that. But if I click it again and we see the lowest one at 31% is at 3 divine already. So it's pretty expensive item. If you want a decent one prepare yourselves to at least give around 10 divine orb for this one. There, 60% is 8 divine. So as I speculated, around 8 to 10 divine is what this is going to cost you if you want something decent. Next up, we've got the boots. The boots are not a unique item, they're just rares, and what we're looking for in here is as much resistance as you possibly can. I managed to get a 45% on both fire and lightning, with cold at 16%, which is okay because one of my rings has another 35 or 40% on cold, and you want to put the rune once again all elemental resistances, which is the soul core Citaquo on both the glove and the boots as well. And here I wanted to have a 30% increased movement speed just in case I get stuck. So if you guys saw the gameplay, whenever we're doing this, because this is the prime way that we're moving around, if we get stuck, then just walking is going to be so much easier than not having movement speed. So if I remove these, then as you guys can see, we're super slow. But yeah, it's definitely not mandatory to have the 30%. I just prefer it for cases that I get stuck or I want to go from point A to B. But the majority of the time you're going to be moving like this. You don't have any mana issues. Nothing's going to stop you from holding that button forever. But in case we have like cases like this, I just do that and we're back on track. And yeah, it's going to be a lot slower without the boots. Next, we've got the first ring, which as you guys can see, I have some cold damage here. It's definitely necessary to have the cold damage here so you can be able to trigger the explosions of the 2 heralds. Then I have some lightning damage there, some maximum mana, and then I'm getting as many attributes as I possibly can. I currently have 45 on strength and 27 on dexterity, and then plus 32 cold resistance. The second ring, for some reason here on the side it doesn't show, but we're gonna go in game so you guys can see the second ring. And this one's a even better ring that costed me around 8 divine, 8 to 10 divine. This is definitely more expensive than this one, but what it does, it gives physical damage, it gives some fire damage, which is definitely needed, and we're gonna explain that in a second. And we have lightning damage, but we also have insane attributes on all 3: 42 strength, 37 dexterity, and 42 intelligence. Very, very good ring. And don't forget, whatever you have here is gonna have a 60% increase on whatever this is. And last but not least, we've got the amulet. This is the budget version of an amulet, a good amulet that is within our budget. Looks something like this. The most important 3 stats that I cared about here is 20 to all attributes, plus 26 to strength, and plus 21 to dexterity. So that 20 attributes to all attributes means that it gives 20 to all 3 of them. So practically this ring gives me 46 strength, 41 dexterity, and 20 intellect. Plus, what we want to do is anoint this with blurred motion. What blurred motion does, it gives you 5% attack speed, 10% increase accuracy rating, which accuracy rating helps us with the speed, and we're going to see that in a second, and 5% increased dexterity. So it's a pretty good, cheap option for you to run into the amulet. However, as I said before, this is the more budget version of the amulet. If you have the divine to spend, then this is what you're looking for. Astra Mentis is your best in slot for this build, as it gives over 100 to all attributes, and it costs more than 150 divine. So overall, the gear, you could go with the cheapest option and just buy everything with Exalted, not care about their stats and how they look and stuff like that. But then if you start investing divine, this build can be amazingly good with up to 10 divine. Obviously, it can scale all the way to 250 to 300 divine if you count the Astra Mentis as well. It all depends on what your budget is. So with the gear out of the way, let's go and check our abilities and what you guys need to be running. Obviously, Tempest Flurry is our main ability for 2 things. 1, damaging everything, and 2, moving. That's what we're going to be holding on to and just blasting through everything and anything in front of us. This is also for our AoE and our single target. The support gems that we want on this are Martial Tempo. We have Crescendo, which is going to perform the final strike twice, because Tempest Flurry is a combination of like 3-4 strikes, and then the 4th one and the final one hits for more. Crescendo makes it for Tempest Flurry to have another final strike. So you're going to have 2 final strikes at the end of the combo. Next, we've got Electrocute. And lastly, we've got Inspiration, so it can lower the cost of the mana, which is why we don't have any issues with the mana. If you don't want this and you want to experiment and see, you can take away this and put Rage, for example, so you can build up some Rage. Or you can try Bullseye, which is another good support gem. And we can actually check it right here. One second, let me just show you. Bullseye, this one right here, is pretty good. Supported gems have 50% more accuracy rating. And the reason why I said before that accuracy rating is good is because there's a specific node we're going to be getting in the passive tree that the more accuracy rating you have, the more speed it's going to give you on your attacks. So accuracy rating is good. Don't overlook it. So Bullseye is a pretty good choice to replace Inspiration, and see if your mana is good. If the mana is good, keep Bullseye. If the mana is not good, keep Inspiration. If you, however, have a fifth link, then you can decide once again if you want to add that fifth link as Bullseye, or another good option is Rage. And I know a lot of you guys are going to be saying, why put Rage here if you can just put a jewel and like get another support gem here? Well, I would argue the jewels are far more valuable than having an extra support gem on something that's already broken. Tempest Flurry is already broken. Like, I don't have the best gear and I've got like 280k DPS in combat. Another slot here apart from Rage is not going to make a huge difference. I do prefer to spend my jewels in a better and more defensive way than having it to give me Rage. But Rage is super, super good. Personally, what I would have done is keep Inspiration, remove Bullseye, and put Rage whenever I get my fifth link, because that's also going to complement our Tempest Bells that have the Rage Forge support gem as well. But that's the Tempest Flurry. A small tip for Tempest Flurry: if you have mana issues for whatever reason, if you go through this guide and the gear and everything, you shouldn't have any issues with the mana, as you guys saw. But if you do have issues whatsoever with Inspiration on it, all you can do is just drop the level of Tempest Flurry. Don't have it at level 19 or 20, have it around 14, 15. It's still going to do massive amount of damage, and it's going to help you out with that extra mana inflection. Next, we've got Stormwave. I think we all know what Stormwave does. It's just a fisher of lightning, and it deals a lot of damage. I can argue that Stormwave is a lot stronger than Tempest Flurry. The reason why it's not our main ability is because it doesn't have that mobility, it doesn't have that movement, that fast clear speed potential, but it's insanely powerful, and that's why I kept it here. You might want to use it here and there sometimes for breaches if you feel that it's a little bit dangerous getting into like fiery grounds and chilled grounds and stuff like that. Stormwave is a very, very good secondary ability that you could just snipe people from the distance, and in order for us to do that, what you want is Innervate, obviously, for the attacks to gain 35% of damage as lightning. We've got Upheaval, which is going to create 2 more fissures in addition to the one that we have. Next, we've got Mobility, so you don't have that penalty whenever you're using Stormwave if you want to spam it. And lastly, we've got Elemental Focus, which obviously gives you more damage on the elemental damage. Next, we've got Charge Staff. We all know what Charge Staff does. It's one of the prime abilities of the Monk, and Mercenaries can also use it, obviously. We have the combination of Combat Frenzy and Resonance. We're going to check it out in a second. But Charge Staff, we want it to collect power charges with Tempest Flurry or Stormwave, whatever you're using, mostly the Flurry, and then convert those charges into Charge Staff so you can empower your Flurry even more, killing everything before you even reach them, as you guys saw. So for this one to be effective, we want Persistence, so whenever you click it, it has 40% more duration. We want Lightning Exposure, so you can expose the resistances of the enemies, and Strip Away, which is gonna amplify that by 30% extra for your exposure. And finally, we need Perpetual Charges, because this one, whenever you're clicking on Charge Staff, it might have 30% chance of not removing the charges that you have, so you will always have Charge Staff on. Next is an amazing tech that I wanted to show you guys. Is we have 2 bells. That's right, 2 bells. As you guys saw on the bosses, we used both of them, and the way that you want to do this is you grab one of the bells and you put Overabundance on it. What happens is this one's going to give you an extra limit, and if you put a second Tempest Bell there, then you're going to be able to drag them into your action bars. Each one is going to have a different cooldown time from the other one. As you guys see, this one has 110 mana cost with 0.5 seconds on the cooldown timer, and this is 10 seconds. So I use personally Q first, and then by the time that's done, then I do E, or vice versa. It doesn't matter. We have 2 bells, and the reason why we want 2 bells is because if you drop both of them on the boss is going to be dead in 3 seconds. What Bell does is any kind of damage that you hit it with, which in our case is going to be Tempest Flurry. Any kind of element that you hit it with, it's going to resonate, dealing insane amount of damage. As you guys see in the description, it counts all the elements. And guess what? We have all three of them. Lightning, which is the base one, the core of Tempest Flurry. We have cold damage, which is something that we put into our rings. And this is the reason we had fire damage on the second ring. I have 1 to 3, not 10 to 50 or anything like that. The smallest amount of fire damage is gonna do. You don't need to go crazy on the fire damage. The reason why we want the fire damage is so you can trigger ignite, because if you ignite the bell, it's gonna deal a lot more damage. So for the first bell, you need overabundance, primal armament, close combat, so you can deal more damage in a closed area, which is what we need to melt the bosses quickly with the bell, and rage forged, and this is there to complement the rage socket on your Tempest Flurry, or if you choose to add it into a jewel, it's up to you. And then the second bell, we want leverage for more crit. We want hourglass, which is going to deal 40% more damage, plus the cooldown, which we don't care about it because we have 2 bells. Concentrated effect to have less area of effect but more damage wherever you put it. And then super critical, which is a multiplier on your critical damage bonus. Next, having both Herald of Thunder and Herald of Ice, and having vice versa support gems on each one, so it can trigger what the Palsy ring usually does. So Herald of Thunder is going to have cold stuff, and Herald of Ice is going to have lightning stuff. So Herald of Thunder, you want cold infusion, glaciation for the freeze buildup, ice bite, and then long shot, so Herald of Thunder can go all the way to the very back. On Herald of Ice, you want lightning infusion instead of cold infusion. You want conduction, so you can have 100% more chance to shock. Overcharge, which helps with the magnitude of the shock supported skills, and then magnified effect that increases the range even more for Herald of Ice, which is very close to Longshot. And last but not least, of course, we have Combat Frenzy, which is what's generating frenzy charges for us, and then Resonance in the passive skill tree converts those frenzy charges into power charges. For this one, you want to run Profusion, so you can have 50% more chance of getting an additional charge, and Clarity, which is very important to why we don't have mana problems. It gives you 30% mana regen when Combat Frenzy is active, so your character always has an extra 30% mana regen. Okay, and lastly, let's go to the big stuff here. This is going to be my final guide on the Gemling Attribute Stacker. This is where I'm going to leave it to. So the first thing that you want to do is the Ascendancy. You obviously will need Gemling Legionnaire, and the points, how you put them, adaptive capability, not really crazy, but we need that to get to enhanced effectiveness, which what it does, it doubles the bonuses from the intelligence, strength, and dexterity attributes. Really crucial to have here. And then the second one is going to crystalline potential into advanced thaumaturgy. And what these do is obviously you get 10% quality of all skills, which is not that great either, but again, we're using this as a stepping stone so we can go to the thaumaturgy. And what thaumaturgy does, it simply reduces the cost of all of your skills by 30%, even though it increases the attribute requirements for the skill gems. We don't care about that second one, but we go for this one for the 30% less cost of skills, because if this was not here, we would have had a big issue with the mana. But moving on to the main stuff of the tree, you can check them on the website. I'm not going to talk about it too much, but the most important things are obviously getting your star here. You have this little thing that I was said before about the accuracy. It gives you 1% increased attack speed per 250 accuracy rating. So the more accuracy rating you have, the more speed you're going to have in your attacks, therefore the more damage you're going to have. We have a couple of crit notes here. We're going obviously for the build-ups, for the cold, fire, and lightning. It will really help. These here are a game changer. Falcon technique is insanely good. And then we have some lightning stuff. We get resonance, obviously, some more speed and cost deduction, and of course some more intelligence here. And as you might notice, I have some rings going on here, and all of these things are jewels. So the next topic I want to talk about is jewels, because as you guys can see, I have a lot of jeweled sockets that I'm getting. There's 10 jeweled sockets that you can put, and some of them that you might need, like the normal ones. I experimented with both having like fully damage oriented jewels or defensive ones, and I do prefer the defensive ones because we have a lot of damage, a lot of speed. We don't need more than that. So what I did go with is getting some mana regeneration on the sapphires, and 4% of damage is taking from mana before life. So the majority of my gems have that one modifier. +4, I have +3 on this one, and stacking all that up really helps with the defensives. Another one that you want is Grand Spectrum Sapphire. This costs a couple of divine. Once again, if you have all the gear, if you have everything and you have spare divine and you want to invest it somehow on this build, then this should be your next step into it. Then we have the Control Metamorphosis, and what it does, it takes -5% on elemental resistance and -3 on chaos resistant, but the passives and the radius can be allocated without being connected to your tree. And this is a big boost. Where I added it is right here, which is why we're getting this jeweled socket right here, because everything within the circle, as you see, is going to allow us to pick it up. And this one is going to be a huge damage booster. And last but not least, we've got the resonance against the darkness. I'm not sure why the website doesn't put it here, but if you type against the darkness in the trading site and you put a filter where it shows the resonance, that one costs a couple of 100 divine. I don't have it. I just added it here for you guys to see for the ultra mega endgame in case you guys want to invest or you find it or whatever. This is where you want to put it. It just gives you extra benefits on all of the small notable passives around. But yeah, that should cover everything for this build for you guys to make it work. If you enjoyed it, do make sure that you like the video and subscribe to the channel to support it, and just stay tuned with all the Path of Exile 2 guides and content that I have coming up. As always, if you have any questions at all or opinion or feedback that you want to give for this build specifically, type it in the comments down below. And don't forget that if you're still leveling, there's this guide that you can follow for more efficiency. Thank you very much once again for watching. I'm going to see you guys on the next one. Peace.